There is little else in the world that can rival the stories of New York City's past. Did you know that before Coney Island became Coney Island, there existed grand hotels of unseen magnitude? Hundreds of people visit Brooklyn and the beaches on Coney Island every year, yet very few of them are aware of the other world that used to exist in their locations. This is the story of one of these hotels. A hotel whose story is so incredible that it is one of the few stories of this forgotten time to survive to the present. From a geographical standpoint, Coney Island is a location in South Brooklyn, facing the Atlantic Ocean to the south and a creek to the north. To be somewhat picky, it is no longer technically an island, as the creek no longer exists along the entire north border, making the area now a peninsula? Regardless, the area remained without any major development until the late 1860s, when William Engelman built a hotel in the south of the island adjoining the beach and named it Engelman's Ocean Resort. This jump-started the development of the southern beaches as luxury resort destinations, with a number of hotels opening over the next decade, most notably the Manhattan Beach Hotel, the first of a series of 3 large luxury hotels to open in the area. The eastern part of the island, where the hotel opened, was thus named Manhattan Beach and began attracting a large number of visitors. Engelman, meanwhile, saw the writing in the sand and imagined building a larger, grander hotel close to the original. However, much of the area surrounding the Ocean Hotel, of which as far as I am aware there are no photographs that remain today, was empty, as the land was owned by hundreds of landowners in a number of 2-acre plots. Undeterred and determined to expand his property, Engelman spent years tracking down each of the landowners and was miraculously able to eventually convince them all to sell. Now all Engelman needed was some money to build the darn thing. Luckily for him, a local organization thought that they had a plan that could serve both their and Engelman's needs. The vision was simple: build a railroad connecting the greater New York area to Coney Island, and build a magnificent hotel at its terminus. The railroad company would finance the hotel and take a cut of its profits. This was actually quite a common practice at the time, and many larger hotels in the area at the time had their own railroad lines connected directly to them. The hotel would be known as Hotel Brighton, opening in 1878. Newspapers exclaimed, "This is the largest and finest hotel on the island and is first class in all its appointments." Taking a page from their partner to the east, the beach on which the hotel was to be built would be known as Brighton Beach, an allusion to the famous resort in England. Because of how old the structure is, there are conflicting reports about many of its features. We do know that the hotel was about 100 by 500 feet and had at least 300 guest rooms. In addition to the guest rooms, the hotel also housed everything from bowling alleys to billiard tables, as well as a number of shops and of course the adjoining train station to its north. 2 large dining rooms that included areas for outdoor dining on the large front patio had the ability to seat 2,000, and the grounds to the south of the hotel had a railroad shuttle to Manhattan Beach, an amphitheater, and a grand bathing pavilion. Swimming was somewhat of a novelty back then, with the delightful side effect of this being the publication of how-to books about the complicated task of going to the beach. The exterior grounds were lit electrically, with one source claiming that, quote, "shortly before dark, the rows of colored lamps along the edge of the platforms which divide Brighton Beach from the sea were lighted and the place presented a brilliant sight," unquote. About a month after the opening of the hotel was the opening of the Brooklyn, Flatbush, and Coney Island Railroad that offered daily transportation to Coney Island in just 10 minutes for 20 cents each way. It opened on July 1st, 1878. The area prospered, and in 1879, just 1 year later, Engelman opened a massive racetrack for horse racing, further increasing the success of his hotel. You see, Coney Island at that time was seen as a place for the middle and upper classes to get away for a weekend or longer, as it was seen as fairly far away from central New York. The beachfront also had the added benefit of being cooler in the summers than Manhattan. In fact, because of a lack of air conditioning, many of the hotels were built intentionally closer to the shore, so that wind could pass through the hotel's interior and lower the temperature. All was going well for the hotel, but things would not stay this way forever. Now, fast forward about a decade to 1887. William Engelman has passed away and George Engelman, a relative, has taken control of the properties. A major unforeseen issue has arisen: beach erosion. You see, over the course of the hotel's existence, the grounds south of it have gradually decreased, as storm after storm hits the area, each time causing major damage to the ground and the buildings near it. Now the ocean is so close to the hotel that it's become clear that something must be done. It was here that our story starts to become incredible. The plan was simple: move the hotel. But how do you move a massive 5,000-ton building, you ask? Trains. How? Here's how. By excavating beneath the hotel, raising it on jack screws and long stalwart beams, room was made to lay railroad tracks under the building, running directly away from the sea. There were 24 of these tracks, and the area they covered reached the whole 460 feet, the length of the building. Then, 112 iron platform cars were run under the building on these rails, the jack screws unwound, and there the building rested on the cars ready to be hauled back. Pretty incredible, huh? Now they just had to actually move it. This was surprisingly tricky, as the syncopation for the move had to be absolutely perfect to avoid any complications. In late December of 1887, a test run was conducted and successfully moved the structure 50 feet. On April 4, 1888, another move of just under 100 feet brought the hotel off of the elevated stilts and onto solid ground. This was the most widely publicized move, and reporters from multiple newspapers were invited to watch. And additional trains were run on the railroad to the beach to service additional crowds who would come to see the hotel in motion. Crowds reportedly left pennies on the track and kept the remains as souvenirs. Throughout the month of April, the hotel was incrementally pushed to its new location as work continued on the new site's foundation and utilities, and even the track upon which the hotel would be moved. By May, the move was complete, though the hotel remained elevated for at least a month. It was not until the 1st of July of 1888 that the hotel was finally able to reopen. The work on landscaping and grounds continued. It seems that they moved the hotel just in time as well, because a storm in November of that same year completely destroyed the Marine Railway shuttle to Manhattan Beach, causing it to be temporarily replaced by a walkway before its reconstruction further inland. The fate of the hotel, however, would still not be great. The hotel would continue to operate for many years, but faced many operational and financial woes throughout the rest of its lifespan. Annual storms hitting the beaches continued to be a problem even after the moving of the hotel, with small buildings on the hotel's grounds facing major damage and requiring costly repairs. Additionally, the resort's popularity declined, especially after its famed racetrack was removed. In 1924, the construction of the Regalman Boardwalk mandated the resort's closure, and the entire resort, including the bathing pavilion and music hall, were subsequently demolished, with even the Marine Railway closing the year before. After over 45 years of operation, the hotel's legacy was over. The story does not end here, though, as by interpolating an old map of the area, with some roads that still exist today, we are able to find the approximate location of the hotel, which is just north of the boardwalk, which we can find as now a community center, a local restaurant, and some housing structures. The Brooklyn, Flatbush, and Coney Island Railroad, now the Brooklyn and Brighton Beach Railroad, was obtained by the Brooklyn Rapid Transit Company, which then became the Brooklyn Manhattan Transit Corporation, which was then purchased by the city of New York and eventually became part of the MTA. A grade crossing elimination effort in the first few decades of the 1900s meant that most of the system became elevated to avoid obstruction with traffic at street level. All this to say, the New York City subway system's Brighton line, currently serviced by the B&Q trains, runs along the same path that the original railroad to the Brighton Beach Hotel was built, over 145 years ago. While I know I have talked a lot about this hotel, I did want to mention that this story is but a footnote of a footnote of a footnote on the scale of NYC's history. And even within just the scope of this hotel, there is still so much that I was not able to include. So if this is the sort of thing that interests you, I highly suggest you look into it, as there is a very deep history and many facets of Coney's beach ride resorts that I was not able to get into. If you have any questions after watching this video, please leave them in the comments, as I'd like to make a follow-up video explaining the things that I wasn't able to get into in this one. In the meantime, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment if this video was enjoyable, as it really helps out. Adios.